What's up, guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at a figure that I saw at Target today, and I have no idea what this is or why this is, but it was an action figure that caught my attention, and I want to take a look at it today because today we are looking at the Skibidi Toilet Deluxe figure Series 1 Cameraman. Now, I don't have kids of my own, but I have friends who have young kids. Plus, I volunteer with the youth at my church. So I'm around Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So I hear, the Skibidi Toilet Riz, the Sigma, Ohio, all that stuff. But I have no idea what the actual property this thing is from. But it's an action figure that's 1/12 scale. It's a suited body, which I can always find useful in my collection. And this is by Bonkers Toy Co., which is interesting. There's 4 other figures in this line. I opted to go with Cameraman, but there's also Plunger Man, Dark Speaker Man, and TV Woman. A lot of reuse between these 3 figures, I believe, but we're going to open this guy up. We're going to play around with him, articulate him, see what he's all about, and then we're going to compare him to like a vast variety of suited action figures. So maybe this guy can fit into your collection or kind of find its space in your own action figure world. But let's find out about that together. So let's open them up. All right, here's this guy out of the package, and he's a pretty solid figure. I will say that we got a real shiny plastic here on the arms and the jacket, and I think that kind of cheapens it a little. But I mean, it's a well-engineered figure. We got pinless arms, pinless legs, but it's just a very hard plastic overcoat here, so that's gonna hinder articulation. But feel in hand feels pretty good. It doesn't feel super premium. It does kind of feel more like a kid's toy than a collector's item, but that's okay. I found it in the toy aisle, so. But I think it has a lot of merit, and we're just gonna kind of look at it closely. As you can see, he's got a camera for a head. It's on this kind of neck hinge here, so it's kind of interesting. I mean, not much paint detail on this guy. The suit is kind of more of a brown or kind of charcoal gray, whereas the over jacket is a shiny black, and then we got shiny gloss finish on the shoes. We got gloved hands. If we look closely, the hands actually have wrinkles, gloved detail, so that's kind of cool. Like I was saying before, I have no reference to this source material. I just saw a suited action figure and thought we could play around with it. But I mean, it's a solid figure. I mean, it's $20. So it's a standard action figure price. I know action figure prices on most standard stuff is reaching more, $25, $30. So this is a $20 option, but feels pretty good in hand. Let's go ahead and just kind of run through the articulation because I'm very interested on how well this guy moves. First off, we have this camera head here that looks like, yeah, it can turn there at the top of the neck, but the neck is also a separate piece. Really not sure how much movement that neck is getting, but he can, surveillance to the left and to the right. Looks up not too far because its own head's going to get in the way there. Looking down pretty well. Arms, let's see if they can go. They don't go quite 90. I think the way they're designed there, they're going to bunch up inside there. So can't quite get a T-pose, but let's see if they can rotate around. They can rotate around, but that jacket piece kind of forces it out to the side. We got biceps swivel. We do have a double jointed pinless elbow, and comes up past 90. It's a very baggy sleeve, so it's going to get in the way there. Now, at the torso, we have a cut up here, so it looks like we can rotate. All the way around up there. I don't think there's a ball joint or anything there at the middle. It doesn't really crunch forward too much, but the legs do bend, so we kind of get the illusion of crunching forward there. And I feel like, yeah, it swivels at the waist as well. And then legs, let's see how far I can kick out. Can't kick too high because this part of the plastic is a very hard plastic, so can't go too far high, not too far out because just so much stuff is getting in the way. But there is a thigh swivel there. Let's see, double jointed pinless knee. Goes up pretty far. And then we have an ankle that hinges up and back pretty far. Forward facing pin for rocker motion. So pretty standard articulation. I feel like this guy can move around pretty well if you wanted to. It's just there's going to be some limitations because of this suited body, just the design of it with the jacket. But you know, a pretty solid figure in my opinion. So you know, I think maybe if you hit it with a dull flat coat, you know, a matte coat of some kind to kind of knock that shine down, I think it'd look a little more premium. Right now it just looks very, you know, toy-like, but that's okay. But I think this thing's got a lot of merit for what it is, but I'm really more so interested to see how this guy stacks up with the rest of my 1/12 scale action figures. No? Okay. I will say the ankles aren't detented on that joint. They're a little loose, so that might cause a little trouble standing, but it's not too bad. It's not as bad as some other figures I have in my collection, but that's the way he articulates and that's the way he looks. So I want to see how he scales with everyone else in my collection. So let's check that out now. So we're going to do this one figure at a time. We're going to start with the smallest of the suited figures I have. This is just the standard Marvel Legends suited body. This has been reused who knows how many different times throughout the years. And this is actually a knockoff Phil Coulson, Agent Coulson, I got off AliExpress years and years ago. But it you know, it's you know, something I needed. I just needed a guy in an all black suit with a white shirt and black tie, and he does the job very well. But this is a body that we've seen so many times from Marvel Legends in so many different forms, whether that's a, you know, a different undershirt, different colored pants, all that. But then the next size up, I'd say, would be the young Nick Fury body. That's what this John Wick custom is built on. The young Nick Fury from the Captain Marvel movie wave. It's you know, very, I think the arms are pretty much the same. They might be a little bigger than those. It's hard to tell, but it's got a different torso piece and some longer legs, so it gives him a little bit more height there. And then I'd say the next larger figure would be like this movie Logan figure, which I think the legs are the same as John Wick over here, but he's got larger arms, which we see these larger arms again with the Happy Hogan body, which uses the same arms as Wolverine over here, as Logan over there, but he's got some new baggier pants and a little bit wider torso for a different build. So we got 5 different heights here with these 5 different figures, and we see that the cameraman here, he stands right there in the middle. Now he's, you know, like the same, he's a little bit taller than Phil Coulson, a little bit shorter than John Wick, but I mean, his head probably doesn't stand as high as a normal person's head. So that's kind of how he stands up. You know what, while I'm thinking about it, let me grab my measuring tape and we'll get an exact measurement. Yeah, he's standing right at 6 inches tall. So perfectly 1/12 scaled there for this guy. And I mean, this is a body you could easily kind of sneak in with your Marvel Legends, and he fits pretty well with that. But I have other suited figures, specifically my wrestling figures, that kind of fit into this. So we're going to clear out the Marvel Legend guys. And technically, this first figure I'm going to grab is using a Marvel Legends body. So it's kind of an in-between here. But here's my custom suited Cody Rhodes. It's actually using the Marvel Legends Tombstone body, but I swapped out the arms with some Mattel WWE arms, suited arms, to kind of keep that proportion of the wrestling figures. Wrestling figures are kind of like an in-between scale between 1/12 and 1/10. They're probably, you know, 6.5 inch, 6.75 inch scale when it comes to action figures. But this is like, you know, the next size up. Let me bring Happy Hogan back in. So like the next size up in like Marvel Legends figure, suited figures. So we have that. You know, this kind of looks like just a smaller guy compared to, say, let's just say in this realm, Cody Rhodes is 6'2". He's 6'2". This guy's like 5'10", 5'9". Here's another suited body. This is kind of a mix-matched Build-A-Figure parts for Mattel wrestling figures. So we see this guy towering above our cameraman. And then you got some different builds, different jacket pieces to create some different size people. Here's Paul Heyman with the, you know, a pretty standard, when it comes to the WWE Elite figures, pretty standard formula, except he's got this jacket piece that gives him a belly. But arms and legs, pretty standard what you see. And then I do have a Jazzwares AEW action figure. This originally was Malachi Black, but now it's just this guy is just a generic, you know, henchman kind of look. And so that's kind of how he scales out. So a little bit smaller compared to the wrestling figures, but I feel like this kind of body is a great body that you can use in a diorama photography setup, whether it's just a background character or, you know, using our wrestling figures, maybe he's a guy in the crowd. So I think scale-wise, I really like how this thing shapes and sizes out with those other figures. But obviously, if I'm doing a diorama in an arena with this guy in the crowd, he's not going to have a camera for a head. So the last thing I want to do to kind of wrap up this video, I'm gonna heat up some water, do some boiling and popping, just kind of see which parts of this body can easily come off with heat. I'm thinking since the neck is a separate piece, we'll be able to pull that off, and I'll check in my little fodder box to see what parts and pieces we can use on this guy to kind of make him a civilian character, a background character, a crowd character, just something like that. So we're going to play around with him after we heat him up and see which parts can easily come off. So I've broken down the figure here and kind of discovered a few things once I was able to pull it apart. So the torso is in these two separate pieces here, but there's this rubber overlay. This part of the vest is an overlay, and then this top part ports in there. Now this top part is hard plastic, so these arms weren't able to just pop out with heat. And then I also discovered just the legs easily came off. They're just on ball joints there. And now what's interesting is the head here. So the neck piece is this little thing right here that ports in to there. This little L-shaped boot goes in this way and towards the back, and then there's a little peg right there that goes in that hole. And then the head itself has a little peg there, a little ball joint that ports into there. So now, if I'm gonna figure out how to get a head from one of my other action figures on there, I'm gonna see if I have probably my best bet is maybe like a Star Wars Black Series neck. I can probably fit in there. I probably need to trim that little piece out. But it's gonna have to be a very small neck just because this piece here is very small. Now, I could also port that back in and just get a dumbbell joint like this. That's a ball on either end. But then my character is gonna have a gray neck. So I'm just gonna play around and see what I can put together before we end this video. All right, so after digging around in my fodder box, I was able to find a neck peg and a head to work on this body. Now, I will say I had to find the smallest neck peg I could to get this to work. And it took a lot of heat, and it is just squeezed in there. And so I feel like probably more so like Star Wars Black Series necks can work with this body. This particular neck peg, it took me a second to kind of figure out like, where did I get such a small neck peg? And I forgot that's actually from a KO John Wick body. and I used that body for this custom Tony Stark because I got this custom head off eBay, but it's scaled more for SH Figure Arts and not Marvel Legends. So this KO Mafex John Wick body actually worked pretty well for that. And then the head I chose for this body, just the skin tone and the size match, I got some sticky tack, is the movie Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Classified Series Snake Eyes. And I mean, kind of look like, we got like a mob boss look, or, or a snazzy businessman, however you want to fit him into your action figure world. But that's just one of the many possibilities you can do with a generic body like this. So I'm kind of pleased with this purchase. This is something that I didn't even know existed as a product, but it's actually kind of a fun figure. And now I have this security camera head that's just now can be a security camera. If if you're making like a alleyway diorama or something, you can have a camera up on the wall looking at the exit door or something. But yeah, I feel like this is kind of a cool purchase. Now, I don't know anything about Skibidi Toilet, and that just sounds ridiculous coming out of my mouth, but turns out these guys make cool action figures. So I just want to say thank y'all for watching all the way through. So yeah, I want to hear y'all's opinions in the comments below. What do y'all think about this action figure? Were you aware that this was a thing? Have you seen this at your Targets or Walmarts? And I want to know, if you do pick this up, are you keeping it as is with the camera head, or are you going to use it to make a custom? I want to hear all that in the comments below. I love the fact that y'all comment on these videos and ask questions and share your opinions. That's why I do this, is to hear feedback from y'all. And I just want you to know that I'm here for you. I read every comment. I try to respond to every comment. So even if it's not related to this video, if you got something going on in your life and you just need someone to talk to, someone to pray for you, leave a prayer request in the comments below and I will pray for you. And I just want to thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing, just all the support, and just the fact that we can have fun together as toy collectors, as customizers, just showing off our collections on YouTube. So I appreciate the support y'all have shown me. And guys, I can't wait for the next video. I have no idea if it's going to be a Marvel Legends, a DC Multiverse, or a WWE figure, but it'll be something, and I'll try to make it unique to fit into my collection. And that's why I like doing these videos. It's not just to do a review, but to show you what you can make out of a certain figure. So once again, thank you guys for listening to my rambling and watching this video all the way through. And thank y'all for the support, and I can't wait to see y'all next time. See ya. So here's a bonus clip for anyone that stuck all the way to the end. I had to pop the camera head back on because I needed to take some thumbnail photos, and I realized I have one more figure that I could compare them to, and it's the Jazzwares Total Anime Chainsaw Man. And look at this. This is ridiculous, and I feel like these two were destined to be arch rivals. So there you go. But thanks again for watching, guys. See you soon.